Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite Chinese uncle, Uncle Johnny NYC. And this will be a two-part series to answer two questions that I got from the last video I did after mentioning that I have virtually all my money in stocks. So the question was, how can you have all your money in stocks? Don't you need some sort of cash flow for everyday expenses? Second part was, aren't you worried about diversification? So let's answer part one first. How can you have all your money in stocks? Where do you get your cash flow? The easy answer is it's because I have a pension. Okay, I did 22 years in the PD, and 14 out of the last 22 years, the last 14 out of the 22 years was as a lieutenant. So I have a pretty decent pension. Okay, and some of you are thinking, oh, of course. I mean, of course you're doing well because you have a pension. A pension just makes planning your finances easier. Okay, it doesn't mean that you're automatically well-to-do. Okay, a pension, my pension is literally half of my previous income, and 1/4 of me and my wife's combined income, or less, because she actually made more money than me. So, if you can live on 1/4 of your combined income, then yeah, it's easy. It's quote unquote easy. But I highly doubt it. I highly doubt anybody listening to this out there is suddenly going to be like, I make 100,000. Yeah, sure, I can live on 25,000. I don't think so. But if you do, great for you. You probably don't even need to listen to me anymore. Okay? Feel free to cut the video. And the pension gets eroded every year by inflation. I know, the job I have now, working twice a week as a security guard, everybody I work with is a former cop, mostly NYPD. And if they retired 20, 30 years ago, back then, the equivalent of my pension today, back then they had like $25,000 of pension a year. And back then, they could live, let's say, okay with it in New York City if they had another job on the side. Today, most of these guys, with that $25,000 pension, I mean, you go figure. That's $2,000 a month. That is not going to do anything in New York City, right? So a lot of these guys work 60, 70 hours a week doing the same thing I do just to make ends meet. Okay, so I fully expect that my current pension, which is not much better than what these other guys had 20, 30 years ago, when adjusted for inflation, I fully expect that my pension in 20 years will look like 25,000, and I will not be able to just pay for my expenses with $25,000. Currently, my pension pays for all our basic living needs, housing, transportation, basic food, not including going out, eating, not including vacationing. Okay, that comes from our dividends, that comes from this job. Anyway, that all takes planning. This was 20, 30 years in the making that, that's allowed us to live on 1/4 of our previous income alone. Okay. So, and, my father-in-law also has a small pension from his job as maintenance personnel in NYU. He did that for 30 years. And he has a very small $1,500 a month pension, right? So, is that going to allow him to do anything? No, $1,500 barely pay for his home insurance and his real estate taxes before. That's why he ran out of money. That's why they both ran out of money, and we pressured them to sell their house, to downsize, so that they can have some sort of money on the side. Right? So, yeah, the pension just makes planning easier, but you still need a lot of, you know, money on the side in order to supplement that pension, especially once the years go by and it gets eaten up by inflation. All right. Answer to part two coming up.